A story that always comes to mind when I think about violent murderers is Charles Whitman. One day, the 25-year-old Charles Whitman woke up, he killed his wife, he killed his mom, and then he climbed to the top of a tower in the University of Texas and just started shooting people. Police eventually killed him, and they found a suicide note that he had written. In this note, he talked about how he didn't know what he was doing, he felt like something was wrong with him, and he asked that the police, when they kill him, because he knew he would be killed, that they dissect his brain to figure out what was going on, which they did. Do you know what they found? They found a tumor pressing up against his amygdala. The amygdala is the part of the brain that is responsible for emotional regulation. I wonder how much violent antisocial behavior is actually rooted in biological factors, and how much healing could occur in society if we looked at violent criminal behavior through the lens of health. What will we do with the rapists, murderers, and violent offenders? When I do my research, I tend to find a common group of answers. Many prison abolitionists will point out that today's current justice system fails rape victims and victims of murder. Several articles also point out that the current system of prison that we have actually perpetuates the system of violence. Although I tend to agree that the current system isn't doing a great job at all, I still don't think this response is answering the question or really getting to the root of what that question is asking, which is, if there are violent offenders and we get rid of prisons, what will we do with those violent offenders? Are we going to let them walk out on the street? Are we going to let them do their thing? Are we going to give them talk therapy? And I've also heard some prison abolitionists argue that this question is actually just designed to derail the conversation of prison abolition. I do not think that's the case. I think it is a legitimate concern in a world where we have grown up, where prison is in the landscape of what is normal for us, to be concerned about, okay, what will happen to rapists and murderers, which do exist. This question is really coming from a place of fear, yes, and wanting to protect oneself. And I feel like if prison abolition is going to truly make any strides towards being implemented, we cannot continue to give these hand-wavy answers to these really tough, honest questions. The best discussion that I've ever read about the alternative to prisons is in a book by Angela Davis called Prisons Are Obsolete. You can find it online if you look. In it, she writes, rather than try to imagine one single alternative to the existing system of incarceration, we might envision an array of alternatives that will require radical transformations of many aspects of our society. I think when we ideate about prison abolition, we really need to include what that transformation looks like more holistically on a societal level. I do not feel like simply getting rid of prisons will work. I feel like this involves changes to the way we treat mental health, changes to the way we treat education, and most importantly, a redefinition of our ideas of justice. What does it mean to have justice when you have been wronged? I almost feel like this is a spiritual issue because our society, I believe, is a reflection of the energies, the collective energies that we're all dealing with inside. And yes, I acknowledge that policing was spawned from early day slave capturers, and much of our prison system is a modern day slave trade. And what I'm also suggesting is that it is a reflection of how we collectively think about vengeance, revenge, justice, I want you to think about someone who has wronged you, who has harmed you. Do you want that person to suffer the consequences? Look at the language I use. Do you want that person to suffer the consequences? I know many of us would say yes. That is what the prison system is. It's a place where people go to suffer.
Nah, can't nobody silence me. I just want, it's not that all lives don't matter, but right now, our lives matter. Black lives matter.
Yes.
Black trans lives matter.
Yes.
Trans lives matter.
Yes.
Because guess what? We all minorities, but right now, like, let's focus on the person who got killed. Tony McDade was a black trans man. Okay?
Amen.
We're not doing this. We doing this for him. We doing this for our brothers and our sisters who got shot, but we doing this for every black person. Because at the end of the day, I cannot take my fucking skin color off. I cannot mask this shit, okay? Everywhere I fucking go, I'm profiled whether I like it or not.
That ain't right.
Like, I'm looked at whether I like it or not.
That ain't right.
Being skin, bruh. This shit, I can't take this shit off. So guess what? I'ma die about it.
Yes.
I'ma die about my fucking skin. You cannot take my fucking blackness away from me. My blackness is not for your fucking consumption, nigga. It's not. It's not. Okay? It's not. And y'all need to listen. It's like I said, it's okay to be angry. Use wisdom. Don't move stupidly and get yourself hurt. You already seen, we all in this together. I didn't mean to like divide anybody. We all in this together.
I can't help but think about the case of Oluwatoyin Salau, also went by Toyin. She was a 19-year-old activist who was recently raped and murdered. The fact of the matter is that her rapist murderer is in prison right now. He's in jail. He's locked up. And a part of me feels good about that. What does victim-centered justice look like when the victim is dead? So what will we do with violent offenders? I think the real answer is we don't know yet. But I think what prison abolition and this movement is asking us to consider, to imagine, is a world in which we treat violence differently. And that can be very challenging to do in a world where we have been raised where prison is a part of the landscape, something we cannot imagine our lives without. The cops who murdered George Floyd, I find it incompatible to want them to go to prison and advocate for prison abolition at the same time. We need to have an internal consistency. If we lack an internal consistency, then this whole talk of prison abolition becomes just that, all talk. And I would say it becomes most important in the cases that are tough. Because until I change my internal feelings about justice, about revenge, about vengeance, we can shift these societal institutions, but they will just manifest in new forms. This is a very tough issue for me, because if they don't go to prison, I will be extraordinarily upset, because we live in a world with prisons. And as long as we have a world with prisons, a part of me really wants them to go there. Why do I want that? Because I feel like they maliciously caused the suffering and death of a human being. And a part of me wants them to be punished for it. A part of me wants them to suffer for that decision. And this is the inner work that we must do. Kill the cop in your head. And the idea behind this is, in order to reach this world where prison abolition is a real possibility, we must first kill the cop in our head. We must kill that part of us that desires violent revenge for ways in which we've been wronged. Although, even that statement seems a bit out of alignment with this desire to move towards a world of prison abolition. Because to kill the cop in your head, to kill a citizen because they are acting in a way that you don't want them to act. Do you see how it's this almost poetic reflection of something that's happening internally, externally? Kill the cop in your head. No. Let's heal the cop in your head. Let's hold, let's love the cop in your head so that it may transform itself. Because this is what, at least when I think of prison abolition, what I want. When one of our siblings are interacting in ways that are extremely antisocial, I want to live in a world where we hold them, where we love them, where we believe in their capacity to change. And in order for me to do that to someone outside of me, I must first be willing to do that to me and to all of the thoughts that occur in my awareness. I have to be able to hold them, to love them, to trust in their capacity to transform. Killing the cop in your head will never work, because what does the killing is just another cop in your head. What we must do is love the cop in our head to death. So when we think about prison abolition, I really believe it has to start as an internal dialogue. This doesn't mean stop protesting for prison abolition. Go for it, go for it. But while you're doing that, do the internal interrogation. Where am I still hoping that this person over there suffers because they have wronged me? Because if we do not do this internal work and we succeed in the external goals of getting rid of prison, I can guarantee you prisons by different names will prop up to take their place. Because this world is a reflection of the energies that we are abiding with internally. Thank you so much for watching this video. I would love to continue the dialogue and hear your perspective and views on prison abolition in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, please hit that like button